Bangladesh remains tense, with some students having vowed to continue protests a day after the Supreme Court scrapped most of the government job quotas they were demonstrating against. They want the government to implement the court order before they call off their demonstrations. More than 150 people have been killed there in a week of violence. The quota scheme meant a third of jobs were reserved for relatives of veterans from the country's war for independence from Pakistan in 1971. A warning that
troops on the streets, a strict curfew, a near blackout of communication. Bangladesh is using all its might to control public anger. Over the past week, students marched on the streets against quotas in government jobs for families of veterans of Bangladesh's war for independence, which some say benefit those close to the ruling party. The police and paramilitary are accused of cracking down on the protests in what many describe as the worst violence they've seen.
3 of my friends are dead. See, there are blood stains on my hand. Why are my hands colored with the blood of my brothers?
Bangladesh's government has denied that it used violence against unarmed students. It alleges the protests are politically motivated.
The internet for the entire country of Bangladesh has been shut off by the ruling party, by the ruling government for 72 hours now. People like me that are living abroad are not being able to contact their friends and family. Al Jazeera is reporting that there are more than 100 casualties. All this, why? Because the students in our country were protesting against a corrupt quota system that awards jobs and public benefits to the supposed families of freedom fighters. But what the ruling party has actually been doing is using this quota system to give the jobs and the public benefits to their own supporters. Also, please use this filter. All the proceeds are going to be benefiting people in Bangladesh right now.
To be very clear, he's chanting "Step down Hasina, kill her Hasina," not kill her Hasina. So what is exactly going on with Bangladesh now? Well, as of 2 days ago, the Supreme Court overruled the High Court's decision to reinstate the quota system. They've declared that 93% of the government jobs will be based on a merit system, and the quota got cut to 5% for descendants of freedom fighters.
But Samiho, isn't that a good thing? No.
This reinstatement happened at the cost of approximately 450 people martyred, hundreds injured and brutally beaten, and female students being sexually assaulted at the hands of police.
The demonstration led to the government calling their own militia army onto their people and telling them to shoot on sight. They had a shoot on sight order. Got to the point where junior police officers were stepping down, saying that this is not right, this is not what they signed up for. The curfew imposed, the media blackout that I originally talked about. Officials are stating that the curfew is still imposed and still in place. And telecommunication systems are still down. There are several families that still cannot reach their loved ones back home in Bangladesh. Officials are stating that the curfew will still be imposed and in place until the situation dies down. Currently, the situation is no longer about the quota. The people of Bangladesh are now fighting for their needs to be properly met by the government. There were rumors that Sheikh Hasina dipped to Spain. Confirmed or not, I do not know.
But we do know that law enforcement and the ruling party's youth militia wing, aka the Chhatra League, are working together to unalive and injure students and protesters. What started off as Bangladeshi students fighting for equality and opportunity just ended up showcasing the true colors of the Bangladeshi government.
Overseas now to the growing crisis in Bangladesh after weeks of deadly and violent protests. New video coming in tonight as authorities deploy the army and impose a strict new curfew with a shoot-on-sight order. Let's bring in ABC's Inez de la Catera. And Inez, more than 100 people have already died in these clashes.
That's right, Whit, and those protests turning deadly, with government buildings set on fire, a mob storming the state broadcaster, and police firing back with tear gas and live rounds. At least 110 people have been killed, though it's hard to know just how many casualties there have been, with the government imposing a nationwide internet blackout. The U.S. Embassy in a statement saying reports indicate hundreds to possibly thousands have been injured, adding the situation is extremely volatile. Now, these protests first broke out weeks ago over a new quota system that allocates up to 30% of government jobs to the families of veterans who fought for independence against Pakistan in 1971. The army has now been deployed in the country's capital to enforce a strict curfew with a shoot-on-sight order. That curfew expected to end at 10 a.m. on Sunday. Wits.
Alarming new details. Inez, thank you. Overseas now to the growing.
We need to talk about the current situation in Bangladesh because right now on the streets, it's looking like civil war. Just a quick recap, students all over Bangladesh are protesting against the quota system. The quota system is a policy that reserves about 56% of well-paying high jobs to descendants that fought in the 1971 war against Pakistan. And that may sound good on paper, but this ties back into a whole system of corruption by the government, police brutality, freedom of speech, and then removing internet. Bangladesh has been absolutely dark with no internet coverage going on in the past 24 hours. Internet towers are down, internet businesses have been attacked. And with so much darkness, police are literally murdering students. They're tear gassing, they have tanks, they're shooting rubber bullets and actually killing students. And these are now kids of all ages. There are constant non-stop updates of how many students are being murdered on college campuses. Journalists are being harmed. Dhaka Tribune is down. The Prime Minister has already given orders and left the country. Section 144 is about to be implemented in the entire country right now, as if they haven't been doing it, but now it's being implemented. It literally justifies that if you have a small gathering outside, anything is happening, they will shoot you. Bank accounts are closed, everything is frozen. People who have international businesses with workers in Bangladesh, it is on a standstill. Curfew by the army is now being implemented, and when curfew happens, that is concerning. People are protesting all over the world. Students from India are now being advised to flee. All airlines going in and out from Bangladesh are now officially cancelled. The situation has not been getting any better. There's going to be a protest at the UN today. Internationally, Bangladeshi students are getting together to protest as well. It's been a bit difficult on getting any new current information, so if you have any updates, please comment on the post. In my own opinion, I'm so happy to see more people talk about what is happening. Information is now being spread. A lot more people are being educated on what's happening. We have publications like the New York Times now reporting. And just a reminder, those who live in the US, UK, Canada, anywhere else where we have something called freedom of speech, make sure you're using it. This is our own little contribution that we can do to help the citizens of Bangladesh. We need to talk about the current situation.
This video, but the subject.
Shalom. First thing and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory and honor is due to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim Kakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. Noise in this gospel, broad, lifting up the standard of Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. This is a lesson through the spirit, protests, riots, insurrections. That's the vibration that's going out throughout the world. Okay, as tensions here in the West are amid due to this alleged Donald Trump assassination and the stepping down of Joe Biden and the competing of Kamala Harris and possibly Hillary Clinton. There's tensions all over the world, okay? As we know that we had this cyber outage from this particular company. It's called, I was just kind of going into it, and I was doing some research on it from CrowdStrike, which I found out that basically that's a conglomerate of the WHO. And remember, they mentioned that the next demic was going to be that of a cyber outages. Basically, the Great Reset is what we're seeing. And this is why, and pretty much you have these tensions around the world. Now, they're disguising this under a quota system, but overall, this is about bringing about a global reset because they want everybody to come under a particular draconian rule, okay, which is this new world order, which will allow them to fit you with a microscopic tag, which is the MOTB. Okay, find out that this company, what this we call this thing, I think I just mentioned it, CrowdStrike allegedly was I think it was like spearheaded in Ukraine, and it was led by the CIA or something like that. I was just getting some facts on it, and I'm about to do a lesson on that next, Lord's will. But long story short, the world is in crisis, and we're going to see more riots, more tensions prior to this election in November. That's even if there may be one. But right now, these riots and protests that you're seeing around the world, they're going to come here to America. And the thing that's funny now is because they have a shoot-on-sight order in Bangladesh. Okay, now, usually protesters, they have rubber bullets and they're firing like, rubber bullets and in particular cannons and things like that, like harmless things. I mean, nothing that's going to really put you to death. But, as we said before, these protesters are going to become deadly, okay? And they're going to get an order to shoot on sight. When they declare martial law here in America and you get caught outside your jurisdiction within a specified amount of time, they will put you to death, okay? Because they understand that the citizens in America, you got more weapons here than citizens, so it's going to get pretty deadly. But going into this article, it says there's been more than 10 days now since the start of the protests against the government job quota system, because people are oppressed. It says students and youth across the country have been demonstrating against what they see as an unfair policy favoring a certain group, children of freedom fighters in Bangladesh War of Independence. It says, but after the government unleashed unprecedented violence, the protesters have gone beyond the demand for cancellation of the quota system. It says a list of demands by students have been circulated in an underground press release. Number 1, the Prime Minister must accept responsibility for the mass killings of students and publicly apologize, right? Because, like I said, they have a shoot-on-sight order. Okay, they catch you outside because it's martial law, basically. They catch you outside and they can kill you. A few articles, they said it was over 150 students that died. One article said 180, some say 200, some say 100. And we know that the fact checkers here in the West are oftentimes inaccurate. But when you go to these alternative media sites, they give you the rundown on what's really going on. Okay, so anything you hear coming out of the Western media, you have to take it with a grain of salt and really do the research for yourself. You know, but it says here the Home Minister and the Road, Transport and Bridges Minister, the latter is also the Secretary General for the Awami League, must resign from their cabinet positions after the party. Police officers present in the sites where students were killed must be sacked. Vice Chancellor Dhaka Jabringandar and Rajami universities must resign, and these sound like Elamites. Elam. It says the police and goons who attacked the students and those who instigated the attacks must be arrested. Families of killed and injured must be compensated. Bangladesh League, which is the BCL, the pro-government student wing, which is effectively the government's vigilante force, must be banned from student politics and student union establishments. So basically they're protesting them being oppressed because, like we said, draconianism is at an all-time high around the world. When you understand what these particular protesters, they bringing an order out of chaos, man. Okay, and in some way, somehow you can blame the West. Okay, their hands are always in something, whether they directly show or not. But regardless of it, Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is really making his moves. So it says here, all education institutions and halls of residence must be reopened. Guarantees must be provided with no academic or administrative harassment from protesters will take place. That the Prime Minister Hasina publicly apologized for her disparaging comments about the protesters may seem a minor issue, but will surely be a sticking point because people have had it with the oppression. They're tired. It says the Prime Minister is not apologizing kind, regardless of what she does, because she's probably set up through the West. But regardless of the allegations that she has rigged elections, regardless of the fact that corruption has been at an all-time high during her tenure, regardless of the fact that more than 100 students and other protesters have been murdered by her goons and the security forces, regardless of the fact that she was deemed all those who oppose her views to be Razakars, collaborators by the Pakistani occupation in the 1971. It says there is certainly not anyone in the negotiating camp who would have the temperity to even suggest such a course for the Prime Minister. But there is Banga saying you only have one head on your neck. Damn. It says the managers do the heavy lifting, but they control the muscles in the streets and manage things when resistance brews. But the ministers are higher ups in the party, and apart from the difficulty of finding suitable replacements, discarding them was sent out the wrong message to the party. But vice chancellors or counselors and proctors having to resign is an easy one, and they are discardable minions. It says the perks are attractive and there are many to fill the ranks, but the police being dumped is not as easy as they provide some muscle, but friendly fire does take place, man. So basically they want to overthrow this government and bring in some so-called upkept leaders or fair leaders. But you got to understand, you're living in Esau's corruption. Okay, and the scriptures say, so is the ruler, so is the people be. So if you got a corrupt devil that sits at the top of the pinnacle, then even down on the ladder, you're gonna have corruption, because that's how Esau rules. Okay, Esau is a corrupt piece. He's the devil. He's an unjust judge. So what do you expect to happen? You know, like in France, I believe, maybe like last year, they was protesting tax reforms and the retirement age, and you know, people was just losing their fucking minds, man. And it's funny that the people in the West haven't still broke loose yet, man, because they still have some type of dumb, docile hope that this guy Trump is gonna bring justice to America. And really, Trump works for the deep state. Okay, we found out that Trump's handler, he works for the deep state. He works for the Rothschild. So they're spoon feeding you people lies, man. Okay, left wing, right wing. I mean, it tells on itself. Okay, what does a wing have in common? The bird. Okay, it's the same bird. One bird, two wings, part of the same body. Okay, and you people in America, man, you've been docile. I mean, they're raising taxes on you. Inflation is at an all-time high, and basically the only thing they can do is give you empty promises. Okay, Trump ain't gonna deliver on shit that he's saying. Okay, Kamala, for you simple-ass Israelites out there, she raised $81 million in 24 hours based on a bunch of dumb black women. Oh, we gotta get Kamala in there. We gotta get Kamala. What Kamala done for you? Okay, information came out that she had an innocent man on death row put to death. Even when the information, she withheld, she held information that would have acquitted him and adjudicated his sentence, but she held on it and still had him executed, and it came out after the fact. Okay, she sent thousands of niggas to prison for marijuana charges, and yet she smoked weed and get a laugh. She don't give a damn about you people, man, and that's gonna be my next lesson. You know, you Israelites believing in somebody because they look like you. Kamala is not an Israelite. She's a fucking, she's an Elamite. Barack Obama is not an Israelite. Barack Obama is a damn Hamite that acts like an Edomite, man. You know, but nonetheless, man, the signs are here. These protesters are spreading. It's like cancer. You know, because it says here, the entire network has been brought down. Junior Information Technology Minister has said this is due to the unstable situation. So they cut the power, they cut the communications. You know, the phones wasn't working, laptops, internet, everything is going to be cut. It reads, helicopters fly low, beaming searchlight downwards, and have been report of shots fired at people. See, these protests are getting dangerous, man. They ain't just throwing bricks and bottles no more. They're going to be killing people on sight. And when it comes to America, hey, it's going to be a straight up bloodbath, because one thing about it, when these peons in Babylon, they get roused up, they going to shoot first, ask questions later. And that's going to provoke the reaction from the government. Because I'm going to tell you one thing about these Edomites here. They're not giving up their guns. Okay, you can forget about that. They're not giving up their weapons. They're not giving up the guns. They're not going to do it. Okay, so this is the reason why they're trying to tread soft with these people, because they're trying to figure out how to disarm the American people. But the American people are far well enough to know that if you disarm them, they know that basically that's going to spell their demise, because it's happened during the time of Stalin's execution squad. You had the Third Reich. You had these other political movements that when they disarmed their citizens, then the government came in with draconian measures, which what they're trying to establish. Okay, it says tear gas and stun grenade shells become lethal when dropped from a height. It says a student talks of a body laying on an empty flyover being dragged out by the police. So they basically got an order to kill people. It says a friend talks of an unmarked car spraying bullets at the crowd as it speed past. Okay, she was lucky, but the shooter was firing from a window on the other side as a mother grieves over her 3-year-old senselessly killed in gunfire. Call it casualties of war or friendly fire. It says the gory report of human brain concealed on the tarmac is a first for me. The curfew has reestablished rubbish being piled up on the streets, and this is martial law. The brain will be there for people to see, perhaps deliberately, but the raid at 2:20 early this morning in the flat across the street was also in commando fashion, because it ain't gonna be just regular protests and martial law. During the time of these events and these protesters, they're gonna be raiding people's homes. They're gonna be kicking in doors looking for people that spread alleged misinfo about the government. Okay, they're gonna be kicking in the door looking for truth talkers, all types of shit. It ain't gonna be just trying to mend a broken system. They're gonna be kicking in doors with guns, man. looking for the profits, all types of shit. Okay, they just use these protests to stage or mask a rather takeover. Because why you kicking in doors for, man? But it says the video footage is blurry, but one can only see regiments of a huge contingent of the rapid action balancing a heavily armed police and others in plain clothes. It says they eventually walked out with one person, perhaps an opposition leader, but armored personal carriers prowl the streets. Orders to shoot on sight have not been quelled. The anger and the people are still coming into the streets despite the curfew. And notice that these people, they don't have weapons like that. They don't have guns. Okay, they've been disarmed. They ain't allowed to have weapons. You know what I'm saying? So they can just do what the hell they want to people. Same thing like in Austria. When those curfews came down a couple years ago during the C-19, those people was under stringent measures, man, because they wasn't able to retaliate against their government. And that's what they want to do here. Okay? But the American people, one thing, they not going to give up their weapons. Okay? They trying to, but it's not going to happen. I don't see it happening. And in the midst of that, I mean, they may be able to disarm some people like Jake. They're going to disarm Jake because Jake is just going to... Jake falls for anything, but Esau ain't going down like that. That's his blessing. You're not going to take that from him. But it says, in the anger, the people are still coming into the streets despite the curfew. It says there's the other side of the story. Reports of policemen being lynched and offices being set on fire are some of the violent responses to the government-led brutality. Okay, so pretty much, man, this shit is going down in Bangladesh. They're experiencing what we would consider Jacob's trouble. But this is getting ready to be nationwide, worldwide, man. Okay, so let's get a couple of precepts here. I don't want this to be too long. Mark 13, I'm gonna start at verses 5. It says, and Yahushua answering them began to say, take heed lest any man deceive you. For many should come in my name, saying, I am anointed, and shall deceive many. Yeah, you got a lot of false prophets out here. Okay, you got men out here that call themselves Israelites, but they're not coming in the spirit of Yahweh Bashim, Yahushua, but they're coming in the spirit of their own belly. Okay, which is going to lead to destruction. It says here, for many should come in my name, saying, I am anointed, and should deceive many. And we should hear of wars and rumors of wars, be ye not troubled. For such things must need be. And protests and armed conflicts, that's a form of a war, man. Okay. It says must need be, but the end should not be yet. For nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. And this is what we're witnessing. In the midst of a war brewing up, because the war between Israel and Hezbollah is pretty much getting ready to kick off on a whole nother level, which is going to drag the West in it. Okay, and eventually that's going to drive the whole Muslim world in. And we know that Russia have ties to the Muslim world because they're going to back a lot of those Ukrainians and a lot of those Russians. They believe in Islam, so that's going to drag them into this third world war against the West, man. So everything is falling in place. We might not even have an election this year because the shit that they're doing with this, I keep forgetting the name of this damn thing, but what is it called? The CrowdStrike ship. The CEO was speaking on that, and basically he choked up on his words. You know, basically got caught in an act and lies. But basically, they're just showing you with the snap of a finger, they can shut everything down. And if the elections ain't going the way that they wanted to go, I can very well see them push the buttons. Okay, you still got flights that's still being delayed due to that shit that happened Friday. You know, while the whole world is asleep and lollygagging, you got a lot of things going down, man. I mean, they can shut down everything. And you remember Schwab said it. He said it was going to be what they call the Great Reset. Cyber attacks, man. And he told you, and the funny part about it is their partners are behind the shit. They're telling you what they're going to do. So, anyway, it says, from nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There should be earthquakes in diverse places, and there should be famines and troubles. All these are the beginning of sorrows, man, all right? So what we're seeing now is a tension among the nations. People are protesting and rising up against their governments. And that's going to happen here in America, man. All right. 2 Esdras 9:1, it says, and he answered me and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, when thou seest a part of the science path I've told thee before. We're witnessing the signs from the weather to shit, man. They got the ground sinking in California. They said it's losing a foot a day. And before you know it, man, these neighborhoods are getting ready to be swallowed up by sinkholes, man. Okay, so it's getting real bad. We're seeing the plagues, and eventually it's just going to be chaos on the streets of America. that hot girl summer, that shit is getting ready to be a thing of the past. And it says, thou shalt understand that this is the very same time where the highest will begin to visit the world that he made, man. Okay, and these are all the judgments of the Heavenly Father. Okay, via the prophets spoke on these things, now they're coming to pass, as the prophets have predicted or prophesied. And it says, therefore, when there should be seen earthquakes and uproars of people in the world, it says, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning, because the Lord said, I'm the Lord, declaring the end from the beginning, and things that have not yet came to pass, roughly paraphrasing. You see? So, yeah, man, these things are going to come to pass, and as it comes to pass, it's going to lead up into the second coming of Yahushua, who is going to be called Jesus Christ. Okay, he's going to come back and redeem his elect. Because at the end of the day, all this shit is happening because of the controversy of Zion, which is us, our people, and the elect. It says, for like that all that is made in the world have a beginning and an end. The end is made manifest. Even so, times also of the highest have plain beginnings and wonders and powerful works, endings and effects and signs. Okay, and this is part of it. You know, it says uproars of people in the world. Uproars around the world. I mean, you got pretty much every continent on the planet Earth has some type of protest. Even here in America, you have protesting on a small scale. Even when that George Floyd shit, bro, when that George Floyd shit kicked off in 2020, bro, it was like a whole different world out here. I mean, they was down there in the plaza. They was riding with police, man. I was like, wow, it literally flipped like a switch. Like, it was like literally last week prophesying clean, and then next week, because we was prophesying in the area, we went down there, shit just popped off. We like, man, we can't be down here. You know what I'm saying? So it got crazy, man. Tear gas, people got maced, all types of shit. And that's coming right back here to this place. And people seem to forget that happened. Like, people walking around like that's just not gonna happen again, man. I remember that vividly like yesterday. You see? But, you know, people ain't gonna get it until it's too late. Second Edge is 15. And I'm gonna start at verses 15. It says, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people should stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there should be sedition among men, and invading one another. They should not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Right? Because they're not giving a shit about that government. You heard what they said. They said amid martial law, protests and curfews, people are still outside doing what they got to do. They're still protesting. They're still doing violence. They still looting and robbing and snatching motherfuckers out of the house. They don't care. People don't care, man. They angry. They fed up, man. They want this. They want to see Esau go down in these corrupt governments. And this is showing you that the nations, they are longing for a righteous rulership, and they don't even realize it. They want righteous people in power, but the thing is, they're not going to be in power. You know, they want the righteous in power because, I mean, they need it. These other nations are through, man. They can't govern themselves. They need us to govern them. But they got to serve their slavery for 1,000 years, but they still need governance. Okay, we're going to have to beat their ass in order. They thought they, it says here, for the sword and their destruction draw nigh, one people should stand up to fight against another with swords in their hands. For there should be sedition among men, and invading one another, and they should not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions should stand in their power, right? They're going to do what the hell they want to do. A man should desire to go into a city and should not be able, for because of their pride, the city should be troubled, the houses should be destroyed, men should be afraid. Yeah, because these cities, they're going to cut the power, it's going to be dark, shooting everywhere, it's going to be like literally like World War Z on steroids. Everywhere around you, you're going to hear gunshots, fires breaking out, protesters scream. It's gonna be a royal rumble. And if the Lord ain't with you, then you're gonna be part of the rumble. And a man shall have no pity on his neighbor, but should destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of lack of bread and for great tribulation. And that's gonna hit here on a whole different level. Because even when food run out, people gonna still have bullets. So they gonna go on the prowl, man. You better believe your doug's gonna get kicked in, especially you, Keisha. They drag you out of there head first. And they gonna take you and your kids. But with that, all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Lord's will you